What's going on, Gary?
Anthony, great to see you, buddy.
Good to see you.
What are we doing?
Oh, we got all kinds of stuff going on.
I saw your agenda, man.
I had to blow my screen up. You know what I did for the first time this week?
What?
I took my cell phone
Okay.
and I blew up the print on it. It was a sad day.
You know what that means?
In my
dude?
heart. You know what, though?
I used to make fun of people that had the big giant font.
I love it because I'm getting to the age where I have to like hold it out here to read it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and I blew up the font, and just made it larger. Game changer.
Yeah. I sometimes have to do that, especially at night. Usually in the day, I'm okay. When I start to get tired, then it's harder to see my phone.
Lighting.
Yeah, that's key.
That's real key for me. So, but yeah, so I did it. I'm embracing my age.
Your oldness.
Yeah. I guess I need to open that first.
What episode are we on, dude?
This episode 5, if I can count correctly.
Okay.
So, we're into March here.
Yeah.
Into March. It's amazing.
Spring's coming, dude.
Flying. Yeah. I am done with this weather, though, because one day it's like 50, 60 degrees.
Yeah.
The next day it's 40 with 20 mile per hour winds, and it feels like it's in the 20s.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for consistent weather.
Yeah, my middle daughter came home last night at like 8:30, 9:30, something like that. And she goes, "It's flurrying out." I go, "Are you kidding me?" Bro, did you see the rainbow the other day?
I missed the rainbow.
Oh my goodness. It was
but
awesome.
You've been talking about it.
Dude, this rainbow got me, man.
It got you good.
Yeah, the creator is super good.
Yeah.
When he reveals himself in creation.
He's a God of promises.
Yeah, man. Super cool. Yeah, it was a double rainbow here.
Yeah.
In southeast Pennsylvania? Is that South Central Pennsylvania?
South Central, I
South
guess that's
Central
what they say.
Yeah, it was a double rainbow, and it was like the full rainbow.
Yeah.
I
totally missed it. I was outside, but I was working, and I was driving the other direction.
Yeah.
And I get back to the police station. I go in, and they're like, "Did you see the rainbow?" I'm like, "No, I didn't see it." It was behind me the entire time when I was driving. So
yeah, I was driving my son to basketball practice, and like I'm driving and trying to take pictures. Like, Jack, I hope we don't wreck. It was like live photos too, so you probably heard that in the background. It's super funny.
Yeah.
But super cool. And he asked me a cool question. He goes, "Do you think you can ever find the end of the rainbow?" I said, "I don't know, man. That's a great question."
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, isn't that like the old wives' tale?
Yeah, at the end
gold.
There's gold, yeah.
Gold or something.
Stinking Irish, man. They have crazy things.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff in the news about gold. I was reading crazy stuff about gold. Half of it I don't understand, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I just like, I guess gold is being flown into the U.S. Like just crazy stuff, crazy stuff.
Okay.
There's all kinds of stuff out there in the atmosphere of social media.
Yeah. We live in wild times where you can go down like crazy rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Man.
So I was going down this crazy. I was like, should I be buying gold? I mean, I've been thinking about that for a while. Like, is gold something I should be like looking at buying, like having actual, like a commodity, actual gold?
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that. Some people say yes. Some people say no.
Dude, I had people I know, family actually, who had gold and silver, and they hid it in their house.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, this story gets dark real quick.
Okay.
It was like a townhouse, rural townhouse.
Okay.
And the neighbors they were like dirtball neighbors, and they tunneled through the house and found their gold and took it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You know these people that you know
It's
the people
family
this happened to?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
They tunneled like underground, or
So
they
it was
just
like basement. So they like hid it in their basement, like underneath like a dead space between the foundation and the ground. Like it was like they had a good hiding spot.
How did these people know about it?
I don't know. Or they just, tunneled and then found it, like happened upon it.
Oh my goodness.
So they lost like real gold, which is why a bank would say, "Give us your gold."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you can buy gold
And
from
just have
companies,
somebody
and the
else store
company
it.
holds it,
Yeah.
which is what they say is probably your best
That's
option.
a smart option.
Because it's hard to store it. You need a safe or safety deposit box, and
Right.
It's heavy, and I don't know. It's just interesting.
It would be fun to just have gold bars though.
I think it would be fun too.
Or like gold coins and just like
I think
play
we
with
should
them.
buy one just to set it here on our table. Just like a gold bar.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you and I could not afford a full like gold bar. Like,
come on, I can afford a gold bar.
Yeah.
Driving a 2004 Toyota Sequoia. I ain't buying no gold bar.
Here's the other crazy thing I saw just recently is that group, the what is it called? The Patriot Front.
Okay.
Where everyone was saying they're feds.
Yeah.
You know, the Patriot Front, they all dress the same and so the big thing was like, those are feds.
Right.
There's no way they have all those like in shape people all dressed the same, like they're feds and everything. I didn't prescribe to that. I'm like, I don't think these guys are feds. Like maybe there's some feds in the group.
I would like to joke about it.
Yeah, we would joke about it. I think we joked about it on one of our
sure
episodes.
we did.
Here's the crazy thing though.
All right, tell me.
Allegedly, the day after Patel took over the FBI,
okay,
the Patriot Front disbanded.
That's interesting.
Isn't that?
So what's that mean?
So I was trying to find more information on this. I'm like, is this actually true? Did this actually happen? And from all things I looked at and read, it does appear that they disbanded literally within a day of Patel taking over.
So is that his people, you think? Like his tribe? Or do you
think
think
I took it more as like
they feel
hey,
good now.
We better
people
were portraying it as it was a group made up of feds.
Okay.
To push a certain narrative of, conservatives are radicals, and that now that Patel is in that position as the FBI director, they're like, I guess we got to end this now
because
like,
he's going
to come after us.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that's being spun up
now. Yeah,
in the rumor mill and everything.
Conspiracy theory. Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
The day after, like, why did you disband? I couldn't find. I mean, I didn't put a ton of effort into this, but I thought it was pretty interesting. What did you think of Trump's speech to Congress?
To joint Congress?
Yeah.
So I watched part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude, like he's good at speeches.
Yeah.
He's good at speeches. Yeah, for sure. I thought it was. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing that certain people don't stand for or get excited about certain things that he brought out. Right. I can get like the partisan stuff. Like there's certain things that they don't like about him, and like okay, don't clap. But like there was things to clap about.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I think that is what's so like our country right now. It's so polarized.
Yeah, it's
and I don't.
You can't,
and even some of the things we're going to talk about today, like me personally, I'm going to express some criticism and be critical of some things Trump has done, some things our press is doing on the conservative side. But it's so interesting to me because most people aren't willing to do that. That you just identify with a certain tribe or a certain side, and then you do not think critically about what that side is doing.
And you almost hate the other side.
Right.
Which it shouldn't be that way.
Like what happened to just critically thinking and viewing things in a right or wrong aspect?
Yeah.
So you're talking about, the Democrats basically sitting and not clapping and for the entire speech that Trump was giving. And Trump even said at the beginning of the speech, he's like, I could stand up here and say I cured cancer. Right. And this side over here wouldn't clap.
Right.
Like they're so full of hate. And then to prove that point, well, I don't think he did this to prove that point, but he proved his point when he brought up, he pointed out the Border Patrol guy who had protected his partner, the family of Laken Riley that was killed by the illegal immigrant, that kid who was told he only has like 5-6 months to live with cancer, has survived 5-6 years, has a dream of being a police officer, awarded him a Secret Service badge and made him like a Secret Service agent.
Yeah, the chick who got her face bashed with a volleyball from a male player.
Right.
Yeah.
They like some of them rolling their eyes. Like
right.
I'm just like,
yelling lies. I'm like, this stuff we know. Like
I don't understand. Like I don't understand that level of vitriol. Like I get you don't like Trump and you have ideas that are different than his, but can we not at least see that these things are good things, are things that are right
for Americans. Like,
yes.
This is right for Americans and good for Americans.
Right.
Yeah. It is wild.
That's what's wild to me, that they're so polarized that literally we cannot cheer for anything he's doing. Instead, we do these little like hijinks where we hold signs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so silly.
And even like the fact that we're cutting the budget pretty, like coming in with the chain. I mean, Doge is coming in with the chainsaw for sure.
Right.
It's not very like thought out, probably.
Right.
I get the anger for that, but like something has to be done.
Right. And to your point, you and I can sit here and I'm a fan of the Doge, man. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Like, cut the pork. But I can sit here and go, there's probably things getting cut that probably shouldn't be getting cut. And it's probably they aren't using a scalpel to do this. Or like you said, they're using a chainsaw to do it.
That's not my word. I stole that from other people.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not my thing, but
you and I can. But can't the other side, the Democrats that were sitting there in hatred and anger about it, can't they see that there's some good in it too? I mean, when Trump's reading down the list of things they've found, what was it, 8 million to see if they could make mice transgender?
I know. And
then CNN came out with an article and said false. They fact checked it. It was false. And then they quietly issued a correction and said, well, actually it is true, but there needs to be more information added to it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're saying it's true and there just needs to be a little more context,
right,
then it needs to be cut.
Yeah.
First, why are we spending $8 million to do transgender experiments on mice? I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, can't you as a Democrat look at that and be like, yeah, that's wrong. We shouldn't be spending money on that. That money could be spent on something else. And when these mayors sat in front of whoever they were sitting in front of, the congressmen, senators who were questioning them about how much money they're spending on illegal immigrants. And Eric Adams, the New York City mayor, literally, it sounded like he was choking on his words when he said 6.9, he's like, billion, $6.9 billion of taxpayer money in New York City being spent on illegal immigrants.
Right.
Here illegally.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
Can we not agree that that's not a good thing?
Right.
Yeah.
When obviously we have veterans who are homeless, we have old people who aren't getting the care that they need to get. Like, but it's all going to people who came here illegally. They're criminals.
They broke the law.
Yeah, they broke the law. Yeah.
And that's what we're propping up, and we're mad that we're taking money from criminals. I guess I just don't understand that. And I don't understand someone who professes to be a Christian who aligns themselves with some of these things that I'm like, can't we agree that that's a wrong thing, that that's not a righteous thing? Can't we agree that murdering babies is a wrong thing, not a righteous thing? Can't we agree that putting men in women's sports is actually a wrong thing, not a righteous thing?
Right.
Like there's certain things that we can, like, how can you as a believer support that and like, hold it. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's what it's what I don't get. Like, and it's just so polarizing. It's like, if you like Trump, you have to like everything he does. If you like the Biden or the Kamala, you like everything they do. Well, no, we have brains. We can critically think and say, no, I don't agree with that. Or I wish that would have been done differently,
Yeah.
And think about it critically. I don't know. That's just been bothering me lately. I'm just like, I don't understand like the vitriol between both sides. And for sure, like I've expressed it too. Like, I'm just like, can I be kinder to the other side? Can I be more empathetic, or at least try to have like a open conversation about it instead of just being like, whatever, you're crazy, so I don't even want to talk to you about this? Because that's basically the attitude right now.
Yeah.
Like, you're nuts.
Yeah. It's wild times, man.
Yeah.
It's wild times. Yeah. And like the Ukraine thing, like, that meeting went sideways.
Yeah.
That was interesting. That was entertaining to watch. It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And
like, that should be a private conversation, I think. But
And my understanding was that, in the little bit of reading that I did, and I'm not a political analyst or anything or analyst.
We sound like it though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But my understanding is like Zelensky had agreed to this deal with the U.S. And then declined to sign the agreement and said, let's move it to here. Then declined to sign it there and then said, let's do it in front of the press. And then came with these other things. And Vance and Trump were like, we're done. We're done with you.
Yeah.
You wanted to do, you've already pushed this off and said you were going to do it and sign this agreement. So now we're, but yeah, it was, who started like harassing him about not wearing a suit? I'm like, come on, like, are we in middle school here?
Like, we're getting that petty. Yeah,
I get it. Like, okay, maybe you should.
He should have
wore a suit.
He should have
wore a suit. But like, do we really have to do this in front of the press? You can house him on, whether or not he actually wants peace or if he just wants more money.
Right.
But house him on what he's wearing. Like, give me a break. Like, what are we, like third graders here?
I know. Yeah.
So,
that's funny.
I don't know. We'll get into we'll get into some other stuff, but off the top here, man, some sad news. So if the last guest I had on Diakonos, the Cops Calling podcast, MC Williams, great guy, retired cop, chaplain, has like a chaplain program, does a lot of stuff in DC during police week. Just a unafraid witness of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. His wife just passed away from cancer a little over a week ago. When this goes out, it's been over a little over a week. And I just if you have a chance to go back to Diakonos Cops Calling, anyone who's listening to this or watching this and listen to that episode, that was a really great episode. Great guy. Just publicly throughout this whole thing, ever since his wife's been got the diagnosis of cancer, he's just been like so firm in the faith and just an encouragement to me, just watching how he's handled it. Just very vocal on social media about, his faith and just really standing firm in that. And even with his wife passing away and stuff. So
it's brutal, man.
Yeah. I just wanted to, for those that heard the episode and enjoyed that episode, keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. And then I also wanted to give another sad news, a shout out to retired NYPD Lieutenant Eric Dim. He was also a past guest on the podcast. His 7-year-old son, Derek, was diagnosed with brain cancer, inoperable brain cancer. So the story was they were out of country. Eric is a 20-year retired veteran from NYPD, a Marine. Yeah. And they were out of country, and their son, their 7-year-old Derek, started exhibiting, medical problems. Took him to the hospital, weren't getting many answers. Ended up getting some blood work and some other things done, and boom, all of a sudden, out of the blue, he has inoperable brain cancer. So they tried to their plan was to get back into the States, to fly back into the States, I think to go to Maryland, to a children's hospital in Maryland. And they couldn't make it to Johns Hopkins. That's where they were trying to go. Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. Cause
he was
Derek
in such bad
bad.
Yeah. So in a layover in LA, they ended up at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Yeah. And just recently, as of the recording of this podcast, they put him in hospice. So there is, I'll include, I don't know, by the time this episode goes out, I don't know if the GoFundMe will still be up, because Eric and his family, they sold everything and they dipped into their retirements and maxed out. They were just trying to see if they could, solve this problem for Derek. And so some friends of theirs started a GoFundMe account, which got a lot of traction. I think there was a newspaper in New York. I think Sean Hannity put some stuff out about it, and it got a lot of traction, and a lot of money has been raised to try to get the family back up on their feet, pay for all the medical stuff, hospice, all that. So I'll put the link to that GoFundMe in the episode notes for this episode. And if it's still up, strongly encourage you to support him.
Yeah.
And go back and listen to his episode too. So super sad. I think it really struck me because my boy's not much older than that.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine going through something like that and seeing that. So just be praying for Eric Dim and his son Derek and his family. Just a really tough time. And Eric also is part of podcast called New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered that he does with John McCarry. So good guys. You know, they're all NYPD. They do a lot of great stuff about what's going on in New York and the NYPD. I like listening to them and stuff. And just good guys. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And
it is interesting when stuff like this gets out there that like the people that help like financially. Like even if it's $10, but it's 100,000 people giving $10, like that's super helpful. And it is great. Like the medical,
it's so expensive.
It's unreal. And like the guy's got insurance, you know what I mean? Like, and
well, I don't know how New York works with their insurance for retired guys.
Yeah,
like,
but it has to be in network and all this stuff.
Right.
And like, it's just something seems like it should be fixed.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm politicizing this, and that's kind of annoying, but in reality, we're spending $9 billion on illegals, and we have a retired cop who literally is now in financial ruin potentially because of medical bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like something seems off.
Yeah. It seems like we could maybe take the $6.9 billion that was used for illegal immigrants in New York City and maybe use that in a different way to maybe serve our first responders in a better way.
Yeah, or veterans.
People in general. Like, the insurance rates are, through the roof. I mean, I feel blessed to have the insurance. Yeah. As a first responder, our insurance is pretty good. But even with the insurance we have, you still you're still paying stuff out of pocket. And you're like, this is crazy. Like if I didn't have insurance, like I have insurance and I'm still having to pay certain things and meet certain deductibles and pay certain amounts for certain things.
And obviously we got to pay something, but I
don't believe in a socialist,
that everybody pays everything. Yeah.
Right. That it's just free healthcare.
It's just brutal when you get these like extreme like medical situations that are out of our hands. I mean, dude, cancer is brutal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And especially when it comes to a kid, like at some point you expect to get old and die.
Right.
Like that's going to happen.
Right.
But like when a young person dies, or is headed toward death, it's hospice, just a super sad thing.
Yeah.
And it's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to bring, because both those guys were guests on the podcast on Diakonos. My heart was just heavy for them this week, and I wanted to give them both a shout out and hopefully some encouragement and let them know that, hey, there's people praying for them, and there's people giving and trying to support them and everything. And so to stand firm and I don't know. Sometimes it's like, what do you say? Like, how do you lift someone up who just lost their wife? How do you lift someone up whose son is just
terminally ill? Yeah. I mean, it's brutal.
Cancer that you can't operate on. Just
it's hard because like if he's here, you just give him, give him a hug.
Just like So, but it sounded like a lot of it sounded like he was Derek was transferred to I'm not sure if another hospital or if it transferred to his home for the hospice portion here or whatever, but there were police departments along the route from the hospital to wherever they were transporting Derek that gave like police escorts and stuff. So there's like pictures out there of Eric getting pictures with officers who help do escorts and stuff. Yeah. So super cool. Just sad.
It's super sad, dude. Yeah.
Super sad. Tough. It makes me think of my son.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine. So
yeah.
Just prayers with you, Eric, and your family. So anyways, getting into the nitty gritty here. If that wasn't nitty gritty enough, jeez.
Dude, that's a tough spot there, man.
Yeah. Well,
to move from that to talking about other things.
Talk about stuff that is
dude,
important.
Death is brutal.
Yeah.
Like it's from the curse and like But it's like you still have to deal with it. You still have to like process it. You have to like have hope in the future that's promised to those who believe in Jesus. Like, yeah. So it's just it's a hard time.
Yeah, and I think that's what was so encouraging about MC is as he lost his wife, just how firm he stands in the faith.
Yeah,
he's just
that's great. Without it, like I don't know how you would survive that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like how would you? Like I'm thinking about losing. Like if I lost my wife, like I mean, my life would be a train wreck. But like because she literally organizes everything within our life. But like just the friendship, the camaraderie that you build up with someone who you care for and love and live long life with.
Right.
To have them taken away.
Right.
There's that's super sad for anybody, but like a believer, you can trust that the God of promises,
right,
is taking them home.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're just traveling through this world,
right,
to the next, which is a place without sorrow or pain or fear or any sufferings that we have here in this life because of our own sins. So,
right.
So there's hope,
yeah,
you know, and that's encouraging, and it makes me like thankful, that the God of the universe would open my eyes to see His truth, the truth, because there's so many people and ideologies and philosophies that think they know truth,
right,
and there's only one truth.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And our God is alive. Jesus is alive.
He's risen.
You know, and I often think of some of these other religions out there, their gods that they follow in these other religions, they're dead.
And they're brutal.
Yeah. They're they're based on like works driven. Like you are responsible. You have to be the good person. Work
do
harder.
Do more things.
Get
like more money.
Follow these rules. Like, and you know, that's what Christianity offers that a lot of other, or that no other religions offer. It's not about what you do. Yeah. It's been done. Yeah. You know, and out of that like worship for what's been done, then we do good works. We exhibit fruit of that salvation.
And that's true. Like if you look at the world, the reason the world has good things going on is because of believers. And the Christian, like the Christian philosophy, the way Christians live their life. Hospitals are because of believers. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like all of this stuff is because of Christians. Right. And, you know, it's hopefully, I believe Christianity is making the world better.
Right. Our moral code comes from the Creator.
That's right.
And that, you know, going back to what we were talking about, that polarization that we see in our country, can we not just focus on what is righteous and what is evil, and make decisions on that instead of just these identity politics? Like ever since we've like harped on this identity, like how you look, how you identify, you know, the color of your skin, like you know, all these things become more important than right acts and wrong acts, and right morals and wrong morals. And it's just like, man. So, but getting into that,
so you're transitioning here. I like it.
Crossing over into, so the last episode we talked a little bit about the pardons of J6ers. Yeah. And whether or not we agreed with the blanket pardon or not. So
we had some pushback on that, like as far like you and I, like.
Yeah,
we weren't 100% like, they all should be pardoned and blah blah blah.
You were more. I felt like you were more okay with it. I have a problem with the blanket pardon.
Yeah.
So what,
instead of individual based,
right?
It was literally like everybody who was charged based on their actions on January 6th were pardoned. Right. Every single one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them, as far as I know. So this case that we're going to talk about right now kind of like brought it to mind again. I'm like, I don't think the blanket pardons were a good thing. Now, for this case specifically, I don't know that a pardon or not being pardoned would have really affected it. We'll talk about that a little later. But here's the scenario. So
Get into it.
We have a J6 suspect who was killed by the police. So this suspect, he took part in the what do we want to call it? The storming of the Capitol.
This guy literally went in for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
he went into the Capitol. This guy said some things while he was in the Capitol, but he didn't.
Basically, he ended up getting charged with trespass.
Yeah, he didn't beat anybody up. He
Right.
wasn't throwing stuff. He said some things, and literally, there's pictures of him with police officers 3 feet from him,
Right.
inside the Capitol.
Right.
He's just there.
So
he's charged with like basically trespass and like a disorderly conduct, a
Right.
federal charge,
charge.
disorderly conduct.
Yeah,
Kind of.
I'm not calling it insurrection. I mean,
It's not.
on the books, the federal government has the crime of insurrection.
Yeah.
None of the J6 suspects or defendants were charged with insurrection.
Interesting.
None of them.
But that's what
As far
lots of people call.
We call it the insurrection. Some of them were
Not we.
Yeah.
Lots of people call
Lots
it
of people call it insurrection. But so he was arrested. So he took part in January 6th.
Which is 21,
21.
Right? Okay.
He's arrested November 28, 2022 for numerous offenses. Ends up pleading guilty in July 2023 to trespassing charges, and he's sentenced to 6 months in federal prison in November of 23 and 1 year of supervised release.
Okay.
So fast forward, he was out of prison, when
he
this
did his
incident,
6 months or whatever he did. He did
Right.
6 months or whatever and got out. And
But-
was supervised.
but he was still being pardoned. Like this,
Okay.
this
What does a pardon mean? Like it just means like
it's wiped.
it's wiped clean.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it means like it's wiped off your record. So it has
Okay.
no bearing on. That's part of this case. Part of my problem with it is this guy wasn't a good guy. Like
Yeah.
and when it comes to the J6 event, I know that there were people in there that I think should have been pardoned, but there were a lot of bad actors at that too.
I agree.
And I remember watching it happen live, and it made me super sad to see it.
Yep.
Because I was like, this is not what the United States should be. Like, people from other countries should not be watching us do this in the United States.
Agreed.
It made me super sad to see the stuff going on. For sure, there were people that went in there that have no criminal background, are just patriots. Like,
They see other people going in, so
seeing
they
other
follow
people-
the crowd.
They follow.
It is a public building. There are
Yes.
private areas within the building, but like,
But there were a lot of bad actors
agreed.
in that crowd. And this suspect, when you look at his background, when you look at his prior charges, he had prior charge for assaults, resisting arrest, extensive driving record that was going to get him arrested in this scenario before the
Right.
officer was forced to shoot him. And a DUI that back in 2005. So, he's not a guy
not an
who's
innocent.
squeaky clean.
Yeah.
That just innocently went into the Capitol. In addition to that, he went to the Capitol with his uncle. Okay, so his uncle was also charged federally. His uncle actually did assault police officers.
Right.
There's video out there and pictures
Assault
out there.
and resist and kind of like.
Right. I mean, he
was a bad actor.
He's the guy that had the flagpole and was like literally like beating cops with it and jabbing them and knocking them over and stuff. That was this guy's uncle. So that guy shouldn't be pardoned. His uncle shouldn't be pardoned, but his uncle was pardoned. I checked, and his uncle is on the list of people who was pardoned. So his uncle, I think, from the time his uncle was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison, his uncle of this suspect that we're talking about that got shot and killed by police, his uncle did like 6 months of his 2.5 year sentence, and then gets pardoned. I'm like, that shouldn't be. You didn't just walk in and trespass. You assaulted police officers.
Right.
I don't think you should get a pardon for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not a fan of the blanket pardon. And this has been there's a huge debate in the law enforcement community about these pardons.
Yeah.
Some in law enforcement are like, pardon all of them. Others are like, no, we shouldn't pardon people who have assaulted police officers. Like, and I would tend to fall on that side of things. But yeah. So, anyways,
we got to tell the story here.
Yeah, this suspect, he's out. He's in the process of being pardoned, but he has all these other issues, court issues that he has to deal with. It sounds like, based on his interaction with the police officer during the stop, he's not doing some of the things he should be doing. In addition, he's driving without a license. He's an habitual offender, and this officer needs to take him in custody. So this happened in Jasper County Sheriff's Department in Indiana on January 26, 2025. So vehicle stop, officer pulls him over, and basically the suspect's at felony status due to his driving record, and the officer has to take him into custody. And I'm not going to go into like breaking down the whole video.
Sure.
If you want to talk a little bit more about it, we can. But
like it's a decent interaction between the suspect and the police officer. Like it's cordial.
Yeah, and
there's no like animosity. It's basically like, hey, the suspect actually offers, hey, I'm a January 6th guy. I'm being pardoned, like almost immediately.
Yeah, and
which is interesting,
right? And I think one thing that we can talk about just as law enforcement, and if you're a cop listening to this, is just some of those red flag indicators. You know, when the officer first goes up, when the sheriff deputy first goes up and talks to the suspect, that's one of the first things he says. I'm waiting on my pardon for J6. When I stormed the Capitol, I think he uses that terminology or whatever. And he's like, I'm waiting on my pardon, and I can't go back to jail.
Right.
So
I can't get in any trouble.
I can't get in any trouble. Yeah. So as a police officer, if someone says that to you, first of all, you know that they've already been in jail.
Right.
They're telling you they're not going back. They're not going back. Yeah. And the other thing, when the sheriff deputy first approached, this suspect has his hands on the steering wheel,
which I recommend for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
But ask permission to put the van in park. Right away, you should be thinking that that's not a normal interaction.
Right.
And if you have someone telling you that, they're probably also telling you they have something in the car that could hurt you.
Right.
So as soon as I saw him, hands on the steering wheel, telling him he's waiting on his pardon, telling him he can't go to jail, asking him if he can put the car in park, I'm like, this guy has a gun in the van.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what I would be thinking as a police officer, or at least I would be hoping that I'm picking that up. The other red flag was when the officer tells him to step out of the car and step to the back. The first thing he does is put the window up on the driver's door. And he takes way too long to get out of that van.
It's probably 10 seconds or something like that, which it sounds short, but that's a long time. As just step out of the car.
Yeah. Watching the video with the deputy standing there, I'm literally thinking to myself, this guy is taking way too long to get out of the car. Like, it was making me nervous just watching the video.
I thought it was going to happen then, because I thought that's when he was going to pull his gun out.
And I think what the suspect was doing was, first of all, he knew he wasn't going to be getting back in his van.
Right.
He's telling you, I know I'm not getting back in the van, so I'm going to close the window and lock this thing up.
Because that's the natural thing to do, right? That's what you do every time you get out of your car. You generally put up your windows.
Right.
You're going to lock it up, right? Because he knows he's not getting back in the car.
Yeah. So he's telling you, I know I'm not getting back in the car. He's also taking a really long time to do it, which means he's thinking.
Yep.
And he's trying to figure out what he's going to do. And he's already given you clues and hints that he's armed.
Yep.
So it was just one of those videos that I was watching. I was like, wow, these are like, he's giving these indicators. Like, are we picking up on these indicators? Or are we just in a rush to get the vehicle stop over? It just kind of woke me up a little bit and was like, hey, these are things like we need to be thinking about as if you're like me, a police officer still in the street, still interacting with the public on traffic stops. These are things that you need to be thinking about and picking up on. Pay attention to them. So anyways, calls him to the back of the van, tells him that he is going to have to get taken into custody. He's a habitual offender. It's a felony. And this guy, you can tell his like blood pressure is spiking. He's like almost pulling his pinky off his hand. Yeah. He's so nervous.
Which is
he's
grooming,
like shaking.
Which is like, it's trying to relieve stress.
Right. His voice is
grabbing his fingers.
Yeah. His voice is like quivering and stuff.
He makes a fist and then removes it. Like
as a police officer in the moment, it's hard sometimes in the moment to be picking up on those things because you're thinking about what you're saying and you're trying to
you're trying to calm him so that
subconsciously you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, I can tell you being in situations like that, you can just feel the pressure ramping and you're something bad is coming.
Yeah.
And watching the video as a police officer too, it's just so uncomfortable because I'm watching this. I mean, and obviously we have hindsight bias. We know what happens at the end, but you're watching this and you can just feel the pressure building. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, you know it's coming, but you don't know when it's coming because it's the first time you've seen the video.
And you can't just punch the guy. You can't just tase him. You can't just we talk about this, right? So the officer does a pretty good job of just trying to talk to him, explain what he's going to do. Like, you have to come to jail. Mm-hmm. I can't give you a ride. It's not like that. It's a felony. If I could, I would. So he's trying to make this like a calm and easy arrest.
Right. And this officer's by himself, no backup. Yeah. You're trying to lower the stress level, but still do your job. And
it is an interesting point is this. If you're going to take a guy into custody, why do it by yourself? Mm-hmm. Is there a reason he could have waited in his car? And I'm not blaming this guy. Right. He did a great job. But I worked in a place where I had backup within minutes.
And there's a lot of places that are not like that. And
I'm actually learning that.
This was in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. If you look at this vehicle stop, he's surrounded by fields. You can see a farm off in the distance. This is middle of nowhere, Indiana. Yeah. So I don't know if he had anyone close. They didn't release this deputy's name.
Thankfully. And they blurred him out in the video, which I think is great.
Yeah. So,
So anyway, he tells him you got to be arrested. I'm going to put this paperwork that you gave me, your license, I'm going to put down over here and turn around, put your hands on your back.
Right.
And the suspect runs to the driver's side, gets in the car, and the officer's right on him, and he says, I'm going to shoot myself. Mm-hmm. And he pulls a gun and the officer shoots him.
So justified shooting. I think this suspect wanted to die. He was either going.
He didn't want to go back.
Yeah. Whether he pulled the gun and pointed at the officer or whether he just pulled the gun, it doesn't matter. In that moment, that's a deadly force situation. It doesn't matter what the motives are of the suspect.
He's a fleeing felon at that point.
Yeah. It is a deadly force situation, and unfortunately the Jasper County Sheriff Deputy was put in a position where he had to use deadly force on this suspect.
He did a great job.
Yeah,
he did a great job, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did. The deputy did a great job. But
you can learn from every incident.
Right.
You can learn from every incident, but he did a good job.
Right.
That's a justified shooting. Hopefully, he doesn't get charged.
Oh, I don't think so. I didn't see anything about him getting charged. I know, some people be like, well, the suspect said he was going to kill himself. He just wanted to die.
Yeah.
And I that may be true.
Maybe.
But you can't be in a physical confrontation with trying to take a suspect into custody and that suspect pulls a weapon. I don't care if he pulls a weapon and points it at you or doesn't point at you. That is a 100% deadly force situation.
Once he grabs it, it's over.
You don't have to wait to see, okay, he grabbed a gun. Is he going to shoot himself or is he going to try to shoot me first? You don't have to wait to see. But
well, you shouldn't have to wait to see.
Right. So, again, this brought to mind this whole idea of the pardon. And I don't know that, this suspect only had a 6-month sentence, was already out, but was waiting on his pardon. But it sounded like there was problems with his case and problems with other criminal activity he was engaged in. And was probably going to, affect that pardon, or he felt like it was going to affect that pardon. And the only other thing I would say to it is, if the pardon, is going to wipe your record clean, then any other criminal activity these guys are involved in isn't going to go against that.
Right.
And so, yeah, it just, and then this guy's uncle getting pardoned for, after assaulting a cop. I just, again, the polarized idea of politics right now is like, we just fully agree with Trump and pardoning everyone. I think maybe some of those people should have been pardoned. I know some of those people should have been pardoned, but I think there were a lot of bad actors in there that shouldn't have been pardoned. And, And
in reality, like, some of those who are pardoned are criminals.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even if what they did that day wasn't necessarily criminal and they should have been pardoned, and they were pardoned, doesn't make them, if they still act like criminals, they should still be dealt with as criminals.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of weird that it was a blanket pardon. It's kind of weird. It's definitely a statement. It's something that President Trump ran on.
Right.
It was popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I initially liked it, and then the more you think about it, you're like, yeah, there were some people there. Because you think about some of the people that were doing nothing.
Right.
Right? And they're getting charged. But then there were assaultive behaviors.
For sure.
On January 6th, 2021.
For sure.
There was.
Yeah. And I think
and I was under the impression that a lot of these people were put in jail for 10 years and in solitary confinement and like this and that. Like, that was what was told to me, again, because we're so polarized that it's like the worst case scenario, but then it's blanketed onto everybody that was charged.
Right.
And that's on me. Like,
there were that were received hefty, like 20-year sentences for like sedition and stuff like that. Conspiracy to sedition, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Certain things like that. So, in those cases, you're giving those guys full pardons. And again, looking down over the list, I'm like, you have to specifically look at, what did these people do? I mean, when you read the report on this suspect and his uncle, the report the FBI put together was very detailed, had pictures, had video.
They did a good job.
It was like a very good investigative report. And so looking at it, I'm like, well, okay, this guy that ended up getting killed by this deputy, he got 6 months. Maybe he should have got 6 months. I mean, obviously he made a plea deal. He obviously was in the Capitol and engaged in
said
mean things.
So,
but his uncle, 100% should have got more than 2.5 years, in my opinion, in federal prison for assaulting cops. I know. Listen, I think you assault a cop, I think you get 10 years.
I like it.
I mean,
all right.
That's easily. You want to assault a cop, I think we bring back. One thing I would like to see is mandatory minimums for certain things.
I agree.
And so I did like what Trump said in his speech about you kill a cop, you get death penalty.
I like it.
I did like that. I think you murder anybody, you should get the death penalty. But at least if you have the propensity to murder a police officer, then,
or to assault a police officer, like
getting the death penalty, like I'm in total agreement with that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's going to take 10, 20 years before you get that consequence, but at least
which I think is too long. But
it's too long. It should be much speedily carried out, or more speedily carried out. But the bottom line is, if it's a death penalty case, that person is not going to get out of prison.
Right.
That person isn't going to have the chance for parole, like we see some of these cop killers getting a chance at parole, and putting the families back through that of having to write the parole board and try to convince the parole board not to let this guy out. If you make it death penalty case, then they're not getting out. Like, they're in.
Right.
It shouldn't take 20, 30 years for them to be put to death, but at least they're not going to be paroled out. It's interesting because now and again, the pardon wouldn't have really mattered in this case because the guy was already out. But I'm thinking, I read at least one other article, I think, of a guy who was pardoned, a J6 pardon, who got rearrested for assaulting someone or something like that. So some of these guys are bad actors, and I think it could have just been done in a better way. The pardons could have been done in a better way.
I agree.
So,
yep. I mean, you have the power of the federal government to look at every single charge, like you do. Like there's lots of people in the federal government. We're learning that very quickly because of Doge.
I just like saying that.
I know. So yeah, I mean, you have the manpower. Like instead of blanket pardons, let's pick it apart, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a thought and I lost it. I'll be honest. That's what that was right awesome. There. It wasn't a glitch in the system. It was just like I had a thought and I lost it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if there's any more fallout from
the
some
problem's
of these.
going to be it's going to be politicized. So any January 6th guy that was pardoned,
it's going to be a political thing.
It's just going to be
like, see, you shouldn't have pardoned this person.
But in reality, like that's true of all criminals, right?
Yeah.
If you go to jail, you're going to get out at some point, most likely.
Right.
And if you're a criminal, you're probably going to do criminal things again.
Yeah.
And in reality, like this guy, like what's crazy about this is this guy's a habitual driver, right? Like,
yeah, he's at felony level for his driving record.
I get it. Dude, it's hard to live life without being able to drive. It is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that means. I don't know how I feel about that or what I think about that. But like we have certain laws that like you have to have a driver's license.
Right.
Whether or not I like that or not, I don't know. But that's the law of the land at this point.
Right.
So like you got to follow you got to follow the laws.
Right.
And as inconvenient as it is, your situation, that you're trying to be pardoned, that you're trying to do the right thing, but you're not actually trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Right. You visited your mom's grave. I think that's what we said. Like, I get it. It's hard, but like, you gotta do the right thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the I think it was who was it Musk and someone else calling for the pardon of Officer Chauvin? You good? You need to answer that?
No. Say it again.
You good? Go ahead.
Say it again.
I think it was Musk and I can't remember, someone else recently publicly called for the pardon of Officer Chauvin in the George Floyd case. So that'll be interesting if he gets pardoned.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah,
I think he should be pardoned.
I think he should be
pardoned too. He's probably done how many years now? 2020 that happened, right? So he's done 5 years already.
No, dude, these guys aren't sentenced that fast. You've been in law enforcement long enough to know that,
dude, time flies for me. I'm old.
Just because something happens 1 year, they're not getting sentenced the same year. Chauvin's been in prison probably 3 years, 2.5 years.
Okay.
Till the trial happened and everything.
All right.
It might not even be that long. But
I don't think Chauvin killed George Floyd. I mean, let me just tell you that.
Like, well, and we can go back if you're listening to us and you're like, whoa, you guys are crazy. George Floyd, that was a murder. No, George Floyd was not a murder. And
the jury said it was.
The jury said it was. But if you go back and listen to our episodes where we broke down, we have a two episodes where we break down the Fall in Minneapolis documentary.
Yeah.
That documentary blew my mind.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff about that case that is not known by the public. And most people still believe that what happened to George Floyd is exactly what the press told them happened to George Floyd. And if you still believe that, I would encourage you to watch that documentary, The Fall in Minneapolis, and just start digging into it a little bit, because I do think Officer Chauvin should be pardoned.
Yeah.
I don't think he is guilty of
Did you watch
murder or manslaughter.
Did you watch the O.J. Simpson documentary, the newest one?
You brought this up the last time. I said no.
Oh. Well, dude, it's
I
been
thought
a month.
My mind is bad.
It's been 2 weeks.
I thought my mind is bad.
You got to watch it.
Okay.
At some point.
I'll give it a look-see.
Yeah. I mean, he was found not guilty, but he was guilty.
Right.
But, whatever.
But yeah, the press can really, I'm amazed at how easily it is to be manipulated by the press. And this next story proves that the conservative side is just as bad, I think.
I agree.
So Boston, Massachusetts, Off-duty officers in a Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, man.
Love Chick-fil-A. I don't feel, anytime I eat fast food anymore, I don't feel great afterwards. But man, it tastes so good going down.
All right.
So
he's in Chick-fil-A.
He's in Chick-fil-A, and a guy,
super busy part of Boston.
Right. A guy chases two people into the Chick-fil-A with a knife. He's trying to stab people.
Yeah.
Off-duty officer eliminates the threat.
Right.
Stops the threat. The mayor of Boston, who is extremely liberal, and is fighting ICE right now and saying we're not turning over our illegal immigrants, which is basically like saying I want criminals in my city.
Yeah,
which is wild to me. But the mayor gives a press conference and says,
like, kind of right after this happens.
Right after
at
this
the
happened.
scene, she like goes to the scene, right?
Yeah, she goes to the scene,
which I like. Like,
yeah,
it's an active scene. Like,
okay,
it does create some chaos.
It does,
but like, she it's her city, right? The people voted her in.
Mm-hmm.
They want her involved in stuff, so she goes to the scene shortly after this incident happens, and she gives a quick presser.
She gives a press conference, and what she does in that like 45-second statement to the press, she says, the first thing she says is, my condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the deceased, meaning the guy who was killed by the off-duty police officer.
Yep.
Then she says, thinking of all people here today that were impacted by this, she says, glad officer is safe and for the quick response of all the first responders. What happened was...
That's a good statement.
It's a decent statement. Decent. Okay.
All right.
So what happened was the conservative press trimmed out everything except her first statement, which her first statement was, my condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the deceased.
Right.
Okay. So that got trimmed out, got thrown up on social media. Everyone's in an uproar. How could
conservatives, the right's real mad.
How could she say this? How could she like show up at a scene like this and not talk about the victims who he was trying to stab, the police officer, and all she cares about is giving her condolences and all of her thoughts to the suspect who was shot and killed, who was doing unrighteous things. How could this happen?
Right.
And that's how it was portrayed. So I saw this and I was like, how dare she?
You got real mad.
Well, no, I'm just, not real mad. I was just like, I was like, how dare she would make us?
Yeah.
Why would you have a press conference and say that? Like, why wouldn't you first talk about the victims, who were stabbed or who were being chased by this guy,
or the heroism of the
off-duty cop? Like, why would you like say that? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to find the longer version of this and see. Yeah. And then I saw all these other things she said, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, we always want to, give the left a hard time about this stuff, but the right does the same stuff.
Just as bad, yeah.
It's just taking
things out of context,
yep. and just using outrage to like bolster, certain things. But so I just thought it was interesting. So basically I was going to ask you, do you think it's a big deal what she said or not a big deal?
Like the whole statement?
Right. Yeah, the whole statement.
I think the whole statement based on the thing just happening. Like, listen, the guy died. He got killed by the police because he did an unrighteous act.
Right.
And he was committing violence against others. I get it. But there are other people in his life who probably are suffering because of his death.
And cared about him.
Yeah. I don't necessarily care about him. I don't know him. Right?
Right.
But some people do. So her saying that, I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, using all of our thoughts, that's just, but listen, it's one word. Right. You know what I mean? So you can break it down when you listen to one word, but in the moment, she's like we care about the people who cared about him.
Right.
And that's true.
Right.
Like, it should be true. Like, we should be compassionate for those who lost a loved one, even though he committed
a heinous act.
Acts of violence, which cost him his life.
Right.
Like, I get it. Like, but we should be compassionate to those others. The problem is she said all, which means all of your thoughts. Like, that's literally what it means, is all of your thoughts.
Right.
And then thank you to this. But you should also be thinking about the officer who's got to deal with the fact that he just killed a guy. and he's off duty. He's not in uniform. It's Boston. It's a liberal place. Like, what's coming next?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I going to get blasted now?
Right.
Am I going to go to jail? I know my brothers and sisters in law enforcement are going to protect me, but how about the government? The government's going to come after me. Right. Like that's initially. So like some of your thoughts have to go, but like now we're parsing one word.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
I don't think she did it's a good statement. It's just, dude, it's tough being a politician when there's it's tough being someone who's in front of a camera and trying to make a statement that pleases everybody.
Right.
And that's your job as a politician and a mayor. Like you got to think about the victim and the family and all those who are going to support the victim and the family, which I think is still crazy. But like a politician supports all of the people. That's their goal, is to support everyone, all the citizens that fall under their jurisdiction. So like you gotta please everybody, and you can't. Like you're never gonna please everybody.
And like you said, here she is. She shows up at the scene and has to give a statement off the cuff, and then,
she doesn't know all the facts.
And then people like are just picking apart what she says. I would have started with something different.
I agree.
I would have started with something different. But I think
like I would start off something like, I am so grateful that we had an off-duty police officer who's so well trained.
Right.
And he was able to protect our citizens.
Right.
And end this violent criminals act.
Right.
And like
our condolences
for the family. Yeah. It's easy. It's an easy like transition.
Right. So I think, you could make the case that, hey, this was her off the cuff statement, seemed to be more concerned with the suspect and the suspect's family than the actual victims in the case and the officer who did.
And I do think that is true because of the way statements are made.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's true. We don't know her heart. We say that all the time, right? We don't know that. But like when you say things like that's where like you can tell someone's like intent, the author's intent based on the statement.
Right.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
It can be off, but like it naturally flows. The way you speak, the way you like make a statement is kind of from the heart.
Right.
And I guess people can make mistakes in their intent and the way they phrase things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know her heart. Dude.
I just thought it was interesting because she is extremely, I think, Mayor Wu, I think that's her last name.
I don't know.
She's extremely liberal.
Yeah.
And so it was just funny, to me, it was amusing for the conservatives to jump on this one little statement and turn it into this big thing.
Yeah, shame on them. In reality,
and when you listen to the whole thing, you're like, this is really a non-issue. Yeah, she could have worded it better, worded it in a different order, said something a little more, but she's there at the scene speaking off the cuff. Like,
it's not easy.
I
would do a terrible job.
Oh, has a bunch of things going through her mind. So can we just give a little bit of
grace? Yeah, a little bit of grace. Yeah.
So
try to think the best of people.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
I don't know. I think one thing that, I've just been challenged with lately is, I'm a very opinionated person, a very truth-driven person, but do I genuinely have a love and care of people who are doing things, unrighteous things? Do I really care about them as people? Do I care, about their eternity? Do I care about what they believe and trying to present truth to them in love?
Yeah.
Or am I just like a hammer? And it's so easy to get sucked into it, especially in our culture. Like it's like outrage gets you clicks. Like it's hilarious. When I make shorts, I can tell you what short's going to get more hits based on my title.
Okay.
Because if I put something like Biden pardons cop killer, I know it's going through the roof.
Yeah.
If I put Jesus is the only way, not many views.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like, and people use that. People use outrage. If you're a podcaster, if you're in the public sphere, it's used to get clicks. Right. Outrage gets clicks. And I'm constantly challenged by that in my own life. I don't want to be just an outrage junkie.
Yeah, but as a podcaster, you're trying to get clicks. You're trying to get...
Sure.
So it's like, it's this balance of...
Yeah, sure. You want to get clicks, but am I presenting anything else to the public? Or am I just like, as much as I appreciate, people like Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens at times, and, these conservative pundits who are just beating the drum of like,
the left's terrible.
They're evil. Which at times you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit in your seat and not clap for a cancer survivor, that's pretty evil. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I can't get behind that. I don't know how.
Or a girl gets smashed in the face by a dude playing volleyball. Like, that's
I don't understand.
Unreal to me.
But I'm going to wear pink in support of women, but only days before I voted to allow men in their locker rooms and to play sports with them and to completely destroy their chances of going anywhere in the sport, because I now have a biological male who can like destroy us in this. Now I stand for women. I'm going to wear pink. It makes
What was the
sense.
sporting event that the male won by 5 minutes and set a new record? What was that?
It was like a running,
running
track
race.
and field
By 5 minutes. And like 5 minutes, destroyed the record.
Right.
And like, that's now the new standard for all women. They're never going to get to that. Like, in reality, they're never going to get there.
But what the hypocrisy is, the people who agree with that, the people that want that to happen will then show up for Trump's speech wearing pink in support of women.
Yeah. It's hypocritical.
It blows my mind. I'm like, I don't understand how you can't understand how what you're presenting today is completely different than what you did yesterday in this vote.
Yeah.
Like
the hard part is to put your mind, or is to try to put your mind into that mindset. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to think of how the left views certain things that they value. Like, their value system,
right.
Some of their values are so different and contrary to mine that I can't wrap my brain around it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, like, abortion. I mean, that's an easy example, right? Because I cannot wrap my brain around how they can be okay with that.
Right.
So but that's the goal, is to try to think why is that? Like, why do they want that? You know what I mean? And I just, there's certain things I can't. I can't fathom.
The only way I can explain it is like a level of spiritual blindness, like unable to determine what is right and righteous and what is wrong and unrighteous.
Yeah, which makes me then think, okay, then it's evil. Like,
right.
Yeah. So like that, then it's hard. Like, then how do you have love and compassion and empathy toward a person who values those things?
Well, I think
so strongly.
I think if it's a person who makes it clear that they are a hater of God, they are not a Christian, because it's what we would expect.
Sure.
I think what makes it hard for me is when it's a believer who wants to support those things.
Yeah, okay.
That's when I feel like, hey, if you're professing the name of Christ, but you are propping up and supporting and voting for people who want to make it easier to murder babies, want girls and boys to transition, are okay with kids going to drag shows. Like, if you're supporting people who want that and you are a follower of Christ, that's what I don't understand. Like, that's what I'm like, how I can't make that make sense in my brain.
Right.
If you're not a believer, if you're a hater of God, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's people who profess the name of Christ and then be like, well, I want to vote for this person, even though and I get it. Trump isn't an abolitionist. He supports abortion in certain situations.
Right.
Completely disagree with him on that. But at least he has a more conservative view on it. At least his views and his ideas will make it harder for more babies to be murdered. How can you vote for someone who just wants to open the floodgates to it? How can you vote for someone who wants to open the floodgates for illegals to come into the country, criminals to come into the country, to make it more unsafe for our country? How can you vote for people who will not support and stand for a young man who's survived cancer?
Right.
Like, how can you support people who are okay with that? Like, that's what I don't understand.
I'm with you.
And I wrestle with it all the time.
Yeah.
I wrestle with it all the time. But I don't know. I try not to be so polarized. I think that's the personal struggle for me.
Okay.
Because I'm so dedicated. I want to be so dedicated to what is true and what is right.
And I think you should be.
Yes, we should be. But sometimes I think it affects my ability to like actually have empathy, love, care of other people, which I also think is wrong.
I got to think about that a little bit.
It's just like,
because isn't loving that person pushing against their ideology?
At times, yeah,
that is
for
the
sure.
loving thing to do.
For sure, at times. I just like I'm just sharing a personal, like my personal struggle with this. Like, I'm not saying like we definitely should push back against that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes it's what defines it. It's what defines us in our culture. Is what do you stand for? What do you not stand for?
Right.
And then there's this idea that we can't even like have a community or conversation with another person who disagrees with us
because it's so polarized.
But I should expect that out of people who don't claim the name of Christ,
who don't have your Christian values.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's easier for me. I'm like, okay,
but someone who claims
it.
to have who claims to have Christian values, take your out of it. Christian values should be the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are the relationships that are difficult for me, because I'm like, how can I have community with you and fellowship with you as a believer when you like support and praise and lift up things that are unrighteous,
when your values are not Christian values?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
gotcha.
I can't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's difficult for me. And I feel like, generally speaking, in the Christian community, it's deafening silence dealing with those things.
Yeah.
Like, it's like no one wants to talk about it because we don't want to offend each other. But I'm like,
but there is truth out there, is what we would believe, that there is a certain set of values and truth.
There's sound doctrine
that are like, they aren't changing.
Right.
They've never changed. They've always been the same.
Right.
And when someone pushes back against those values, claiming to holding Christian values,
right,
it's in opposition. Like, it's in
right.
Yeah.
Those are the difficult relationships, because those people are claiming to have Christian values, are telling people who, like you and I, that we're unloving. We do not care about people. And that's not true.
Right.
But at the same time, like, how well do I do at loving other people? I don't know. It's like a
constant struggle.
A constant struggle for me regarding compassion for other people. And part of it's my job too. Like, you just get to a point where it's so hard not to get hardened towards other people and just write people off. Like, you show up at a scene and it's just chaos, and you're like, you're an idiot, you're a moron, what's wrong with you, get away from me, that
and then you treat everybody like
and
that.
Then you like have to fight against that. You have to fight against like that mindset towards other people. So I don't know. Wow, this turned into a therapy session for Anthony.
You gonna be okay? You gonna be all right, buddy?
I don't know.
Oh man.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just like doing this episode and thinking through stuff, and stuff I'm working through, the class at church, and podcast I'm listening to, a book I'm listening to. I'm just like,
you're getting crushed, man. I love it.
I'm just thinking about all this stuff.
We're watching you become a better you.
A better
live, dude.
Ugh, please.
Your journey through life.
I made a mistake. I threw ice in. This is iced
Dude, it's
coffee.
super loud every time
and
you
it was
drink.
so loud.
Yeah.
I broke my own rule. I yelled at you. I'm like, what are you doing with ice?
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Like, subscribe, repost, comment, do all the things. Support the pod.
Support the pod. Like, give us some comments on Apple, Spotify.
The YouTube.
It's kind of died. No one's been like giving us 5 stars on podcasts.
Pick it up.
Yeah, let's do this.